Corporate Democrats have their sights set on destroying the candidacy of progressive Nina Turner. She is the most progressive person running for Ohio's 11th district congressional seat. And recently we shared with you that Hillary Clinton had endorsed her opponent, a woman by the name of Chantel Jones. And now Representative Jim Clyburn has weighed in, and he has also endorsed, Chantel Brown, not Jones, Chantel Brown. Now, US Representative James Clyburn, one of the Democratic Party's most outspoken opponents of Medicare for All, is intervening to try to halt Turner's rise in the polls. Now, let's be clear about what Nina Turner represents. Of course, she worked with Bernie Sanders in both of his presidential campaigns. She is an outstanding and outspoken proponent of Medicare for All, which is one of the most important policy issues in this country. And she's just an all-around strong candidate who stands for the right policies. So of course, corporate Democrats are coming for her. Certainly corporate Democrats who are funded by the pharmaceutical industry and also the private healthcare industry, they've got a lot to lose if we have a single payer system. They don't like it. And so they ensured that the very politicians they're bribing come out and support the opponent who is not a proponent of Medicare for All. Now, Clyburn said his decision to back Brown was not about Bernie Sanders or even Turner, who remains the favorite before the contest on August 3rd in the heavily Democratic district. But he took a swipe at what he called the sloganeering of the party's left flank, which has risen to power with calls for Medicare for all, that's the main thing, and to abolish ICE and defund the police. Now, the Medicare for all component of his statement there is relevant, again, because of who funds his campaigns. As the Daily Poster reports, Clyburn has vacuumed in more than $1 million from donors in the pharmaceutical industry, and he previously made headlines vilifying Medicare for All during the 2020 presidential election. Another sign that the pharmaceutical industry and the private healthcare industry is involved in this effort to destroy Nina Turner's candidacy is how they reacted to this recent ad that Turner's campaign put out. Let's take a quick look at that.
Something that continues to haunt me to this day is my mother dying at the young age of 42 years old. No insurance, no money in the bank. So when I fight for Medicare for all, I'm fighting for my mama who's not here and working class people who need to have health care as a right, not a privilege. The poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class should live a good life. Wealth should not dictate whether or not you have access to health care.
Now, the American people see that and they love it because so many can relate to it. In fact, Medicare for All polls well in Ohio's 11th district. Medicare for All polls well, period. Nationally, there have been multiple national polls that show that even with the corporate framing of the question that makes it seem like they would lose, the access they have to the specific doctors they go to, people still want a single payer healthcare system. And so again, Americans see that ad and think, yes, right on, finally, that's what we want. But corporate Democrats see that and think, we need to crush her. We need to crush her. So one day after Turner's campaign put that ad out, corporate Democrats host a fundraiser with the help of the private healthcare industry. The Daily Poster reports that the very next day, corporate lobbyists held a Washington fundraiser for Turner's primary opponent, Chantel Brown. Among those headlining the fundraiser was Jerome Murray, a registered lobbyist for the Pharmaceutical Researchers and Manufacturers Association, which has been backing a nationwide campaign to reduce support for Medicare for All. With all these moneyed interests trying to completely dismantle public support for Medicare for All, it is kind of fascinating how much they failed, right? It is fascinating how many Americans still want a single payer healthcare system. And it's because you can't erase the torturous existence of having to deal with this maze of private health insurers. What will they cover? What don't they cover? Am I gonna go bankrupt? I mean, you have senior citizens going bankrupt right now because they can't afford their medical bills. And Medicare is wonderful, but it doesn't go far enough right now. A single payer Medicare system would put our resources into one system. We're all in that same system. We have actual power to bargain and negotiate prices for service, for pharmaceutical drugs, but they don't want that. They don't want that. The private industry hates the idea of that. The fundraiser, by the way, was also headlined by a CVS health lobbyist, as well as 7 Democratic lawmakers who have raked in more than $5 million from donors in the pharmaceutical and healthcare sectors, including 2 whose top donating sector is the pharmaceutical industry. And why do they love Shontel Brown so much? That's Nina Turner's opponent. Well, get a load of her statement on Medicare for All. Medicare for All would eliminate employers from providing care for their employees. Okay, let's stop right there. I would want nothing more than to not have to rely on my job for healthcare. Because as much as I love working at TYT, what if at some point I want to move on? What if at some point I want the freedom to look for maybe another profession, another job, without that fear of losing my health coverage? And by the way, I'm one of the lucky ones who enjoys what I do. Think about the Americans who are working jobs that they hate, they can't stand, and they feel like they're held captive by this health insurance issue, right? So I don't think Americans are like, I really like the fact that my employer can hold me hostage with healthcare. I think that's great, but Shontel Brown would have you believe that, people love it. The rest of her statement, I know when I'm out in the community, there are some people who are satisfied with the healthcare they're being provided. I certainly don't want to be the person to end that. So there's no discussion about taking healthcare away from Americans. The discussion is about how do Americans get the right coverage so they can see the doctor that they like and not have to worry about paying at the point of service. No copay, no deductible, no premiums, single payer system. You get to see the same doctor as long as they're accepting the single payer compensation for the services they provide. But like this idea that, oh no, you're not gonna be able to see your doctor anymore, they're gonna take the doctors away. That's not what this conversation is about. She's parroting the same corporate talking points that we were force-fed during the 2016 and certainly the 2020 presidential election. And I do also want to just give you a little bit of the media angling on this, because the headline from the New York Times is this: Number 3 House Democrat steps into Ohio race to head off a Sanders acolyte. What? Who's running? Is Bernie Sanders running? Why can't they say Nina Turner's name or write Nina Turner's name in the headline? And the subheadline doesn't even specify that Nina Turner is running in this race. The decision by Representative James Clyburn to oppose an outspoken ally of Senator Bernie Sanders in a special election in Cleveland highlights the generational and ideological gulf in the Democratic Party. They seem like they're afraid to say her name. I mean, that headline and subheadline is laughable. And I do want to read you a few excerpts from the piece where the New York Times reporters say Turner is undoubtedly a divisive figure as well, a prominent surrogate for Mr. Sanders in 2016 and a national co-chairwoman for his campaign in 2020. She has never minced words about what she calls corporate Democrats. She has declined to say whether she voted for Miss Clinton in 2016, and before Election Day in November, she suggested the choice between Donald J. Trump and Mr. Biden was the choice between a full bowl of excrement and half a bowl. I think that sounds pretty good and right on. So I'll tell you where you can donate money to Nina Turner's campaign. Let's put the graphic up. Check out Nina Turner's campaign. She's actually fighting on behalf of the American people. She's actually fighting on behalf of the policies that would improve people's lives materially. We deserve better, and Nina Turner is willing to deliver. So please support her.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.